Hello, folks, and good afternoon. Welcome to another Flycast Partners webinar. My name is Rich Longo, and I'll be your host. And I want to thank each and every one of you for taking time out of your busy day to attend. And I'm looking at the audience today, and what really strikes me is that we've got a huge representation of Western North America on here today. A lot of folks from Hawaii and Vancouver and Alaska and California, on top of our regulars from the East Coast and Texas and things. But I want to welcome you guys for joining us. I know there's a big time difference over there, so thank you for attending today. Today, our webinar is on BMC RemedyForce tips and tricks. And I know that a lot of you did put some things that you would like to see on this webinar during this presentation, but I want you to make sure that you're typing in your questions just in case. Type those questions in the question section of this presentation, and Kyle's going to answer as many of those questions as our time allows today within the 45 minutes that we have. Now, before we get started, let me introduce Kyle to you. Now, Kyle is an SE for Flycast Partners. He's been with us for quite some time now, on great number of years. Him and Bobby are the backbone of our SE organization. And Kyle worked for C for well over a decade. So he has a lot of experience with a lot of the BMC products. He's familiar with IT service management, IT asset management, discovery, and so many other things. And he totally understands and is educated in ITIL and ITIL methodologies and many different other IT areas. So he has been there to help formulate plans for organizations and how they roll out or utilize different tools for their different needs. He has helped put together what would be the best fit for them, and not necessarily just getting a tool in there. He's one of those folks that's able to sit there and analyze the organization and make sure that you are going to be satisfied and you're going to get what you specifically need. So we thank you, Kyle, for taking time out of your day to present for us. Before we get started, Kyle, let me introduce Flycast Partners. Flycast Partners offers best-in-class implementation services and training in IT service management, IT asset management, IT operations management, enterprise service management, and workload automation spaces, all using ITIL best practice. Our professional services team has well over 5,500 professional service engagements on site and remote. As an organization, Flycast Partners has over 1,100 regular customers throughout Canada and the United States. I don't think I can say that for very longer. We're fast approaching 1,200, which is a good thing, and we appreciate every one of you. I encourage you to reach out to us at 844-FLYCAST, that's 844-359-2278, or visit our website. We have folks standing by Monday through Friday during normal business hours just to help you. They're there to chat with you, to talk to you about anything, whether that be a project you may have coming up in 2021. Maybe you're looking for some data sheets or white papers. Perhaps you are looking for some training, or you want to attend an event, or you just want to chat. They're there for that as well. So by all means, reach out to us. And if you don't like those methods, you can also email us at info@flycastpartners.com. Now, what I would like to do is encourage you yet again to please type those questions in for us, and I will read those off to Kyle. He's going to answer as many of those questions as possible during today's presentation. So don't be bashful and don't be afraid to do so. And with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Kyle, and he's going to teach you, some of the latest things that are going on as far as RemedyForce, some of the latest, hurdles that a lot of customers have been talking to him about.
Okay, thank you, Rich. And good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for taking time out of your day. As Rich mentioned, I'm going to try and we've probably got a mixed audience, some of those that are maybe just starting with RemedyForce and some that have been with RemedyForce maybe for a while and looking for maybe some more advanced type of tips and tricks. So I'm going to try and cover, kind of a broad range of things that I've learned and used over the years, so that hopefully, everybody has the ability to grab a nugget out of this webinar and this presentation they can take away, and maybe things make a little more efficient, provide some information you didn't know you had or had access to before. So I'm going to try and highlight some of those, lesser used or lesser known features. I'm going to start off and I'm going to talk about a little bit about the homepage, because customers tend to focus on the RemedyForce console. They're focused on managing tickets and problems and changes, things of that nature. But the homepage, of course, for everybody logging into RemedyForce, this is really their starting point. And this is something that's a great opportunity for you as a customer to be able to highlight any kind of key information that needs to be, kind of brought to the forefront, so that you have important details, important metrics, important information, important communications right in front of that service desk analyst or that help desk staff, immediately upon login. And this home screen is infinitely configurable. So there's plugins, everything from being able to plug in Microsoft Teams views. You can see them at the top. You can sign into other third-party tools like Slack or Skype or Yammer or Jabber. So you can integrate your external collaboration tools right into the homepage, so that they're not having to open up multiple interfaces. They're already logged in to the RemedyForce environment. Simply being able to bring those tools into the homepage and provide kind of a unified view of not just the service desk, but bringing in those external communications, being able to bring in other sites. You can feed in RSS feeds. If there's if you want to subscribe to a security feed that's going to notify you about security vulnerabilities and phishing attacks and things like that. All of these types of things can be built into the homepage. You're not limited to just being able to display, service desk data and RemedyForce data. This is your opportunity to take, multiple third-party apps that a user might use on a day-to-day basis, and be able to bring all of those things together. So this is just a particular configuration, but where I've got a dashboard view, kind of center front, provides some metrics. I've got the chatter feed over on the side, which is the social or collaboration tool for the Force.com platform. And then you can see those areas like it's Slack at the top and the RSS feeds, and that can go on and on. So you can literally just keep adding content to this. User just keep scrolling down, and there's just more data and more data and more information. So I strongly recommend for those that haven't spent any time dealing with the homepage or configuring that homepage or really looking into what you can do with that, that's certainly a good opportunity for you to take reports, comments, collaboration data, you name it, and be able to bubble that right up to the front. So the minute a user logs in, all that key information is available to them at their fingertips. Now, I mentioned the majority of users in RemedyForce spend their time working in the RemedyForce console. And this is where everybody has access to all the incidents and problems and changes. For a lot of users, and it's not readily obvious, but this is a great way. This console provides a great way to do bulk edits and mass updates that are difficult to do, and I'd probably say 90% of the tools that are out there. So rather than having to open up individual incidents one by one, which they'll open up in their own tab, of course, you may go in and reassign those to a different queue or a different user, through the form, but you have to go through those things one by one. But it's also possible to use this console as kind of a switchboard. And you'll notice down at the bottom, you can display up to 200 records at a time, meaning that whatever actions I take, I can do bulk operations on up to 200 records in one operation. So rather than having to open up one incident, reassign it, save it, open up another one, reassign it, save it, or change anything else, change the priority, change the category, I can simply use the checkboxes you see over to the left-hand side. So I can grab multiple incidents that I want to apply an update to. It doesn't have to be just reassigning it to another group or team. It could be, as I mentioned, changing the priority, or maybe all three of these incidents have been they've been dealt with or they've been resolved. So these are all ready to close. So rather than having to go in and open up individual incidents, you can simply go through and kind of an email fashion, select all of the, the records that you want to make the update to. And in the drop down, you pick, if I wanted to close these, I could pick the status field and say, I want to set the status of all 3 of these records to close, apply that. It applies it to all 3, and those 3 records disappear. But that same thing could have happened if I was transferring those records to another group or team, changing that priority, you name it. So that's a great way to be able to drive some efficiency, especially if you're using, if your service desk, your frontline service desk is kind of operating in kind of a switchboard fashion where you've got things coming in that they may deal with directly, but then you've got issues that come in that need to be escalated to another group or team or triaged, and then they get, passed on. That could dramatically speed up, the movement of those records between groups and teams and the updates of those records if you haven't been leveraging that functionality. In addition, they have built in end user configuration of this console so that it's no longer required, for the administrator to have to go in and build out the list of columns and how somebody wants their console laid out. It is possible to open that up to the end user so that they can simply go in, and if they want additional information or additional, data within their console view, they can bring things in. They may want to pull, other sources of information out that they don't care about, or maybe it's just simply kind of reorganizing it so that things are, laid out in a left to right fashion so that it makes most sense. That way, you're not having to drive everything through the system admin. You can give the end user some flexibility and some capability to kind of decide for themselves how they want to see the data, how they want it displayed and laid out, while not having to, constantly pepper the administrator every time somebody wants to make a change. Now, in talking about, and let's look at a specific record. Some of you may be using the CMDB, tracking and managing assets and configuration items in RemedyForce, and you may be linking those to incidents or problems or changes within the service desk. Whether you're feeding those in from some third-party tool like SCCM or SolarWinds, some third-party app, whether you're using BMC's client management tool or BMC Discovery, that the source of that data can come from anywhere. So even if you've got spreadsheets, so for those that may not be using the CMDB today, note that we can easily consume those assets and make those items available through the interface from any number of sources. Doesn't have to be a BMC tool. It could be anybody's tool. It could be a Excel spreadsheet, or even 25 spreadsheets managed by 25 different departments. So we can feed all of that in so that you have that capability, number one. That's going to give you the ability to provide some more detail to the service desk, not just understanding which asset is involved, but being able to provide something like a business card like you see here on the screen, so that I can put some key information up there, whether it's the device name, IP address, the business owner, contact information, you name it, whatever I feel is important, so that information, again, I can bubble that up right there in the ticket interface, so that that first level, service desk analyst has access to some details to help troubleshoot. But now, in addition to that, you also have the ability within the CMDB to create a graphical display of all of those assets. So not just giving you a list of devices, but actually being able to display information related to dependencies and relationships and impacts, so that this information takes on, a whole different meaning. Now you're not just looking at one machine, but how does one machine affect another? How does one application affect another? So again, this is designed so that even for those frontline technicians that might not, be network engineers. They're not server admins. They're not in the data center day to day. So they don't, they're not involved in the architecture, but you can provide this kind of detail to them. So if they're on the phone with the customer, it's just that much more subject matter expertise that you can make available to them. Whether that's within your data center, or whether you're bringing in data, as in this case, from AWS or Azure or OpenStack, if you're leveraging, other cloud platforms. So that, and you see, I can go through and expand this out so that, there's a lot more connectivity here. I can kind of decide, how much detail I want at the first level, and then from there, I can let the user kind of drill down if they want additional information. But it's this kind of information that can help you not only troubleshoot, if you're dealing with an incident, help you determine root cause, and if you're, dealing with problem management, but also, of course, if you're logging and dealing with changes in RemedyForce, being able to perform an impact analysis using this data. So this can be critical, to support virtually every process that you may be using within the service desk. The functionality is there for you to go in and build this right out of the box. It doesn't require any plug-in tools or any additional licensing above and beyond RemedyForce. But there are tools from BMC, like BMC Discovery, that can help automate this. Because, of course, tracking thousands of devices along with, 5 or 6 or maybe even a dozen or more connections per device, that can become quite cumbersome very quickly. So a lot of times for customers that want to use the CMDB and they want to be able to leverage the Explorer view and leverage change impact analysis, you may be looking, for a tool to help you collect this data so that it doesn't require a team of individuals to update and manage this, but you can do that, maybe with half of a FTE, and allow automation to collect the bulk of it and make sure that it's up to date and accurate so that you can leverage that. I mean, you've got some ability to be able to, use this to create changes and link those assets to changes above and beyond, just performing the impact analysis. So for those of you that may be using the CMDB today, just note that, beyond just simply tracking, how many desktops and laptops and servers you have, you do have the ability to create those relationships and build this kind of diagram so that this can be presented to anybody and everybody that needs to have access to it. So again, it can kind of shore up troubleshooting, root cause, change impact, you name it. Rich, I'll pause for just a second and see, do we have any questions coming in?
No, not so far. And audience, I want to remind you, please, by all means, type those questions in there. Kyle is here to answer them for you live today. He's happy to. So don't be afraid to ask those questions, and we'll go ahead and get those answered today.
Now, I'm kind of following on that same path. For those of you that are aware, within RemedyForce, right for the last 2 years now, they've baked into the platform a discovery engine that can go out and sweep your network, populate all your IT assets into the CMDB. So that doesn't have to be manual. It doesn't require additional license. It doesn't involve the discovery tool that I just was talking about. This is something that's a part of your RemedyForce license. You own it. All you have to do is download a scanner application, put it on a device, on your network, and it can go out and start collecting information about your desktops, about your laptops, about your servers, your switches, your routers, printers, anything that's on the network that's got an IP address. So that's going to aid, if you're looking to start building a CMDB, or you want to start tracking some asset management information, warranty and support dates and contracts and things like that. You have an easy way to be able to populate those assets into RemedyForce without having to, go through one at a time and key in serial numbers and asset tags and the like. In addition, you can also set up well, before I go there, while I'm here, let me just show you. This is when I look at that asset. This relates back to that diagram that we just looked at. Now, this was not near as comprehensive as that AWS diagram, but this is the place where I can go and relate or create a relationship from this desktop to some other device. Maybe it's connected to a server, maybe it's connected to a particular printer or some service on the network. This is where I can go in and I can create that relationship and determine, number one, what kind of relationship is it? Is it hosting some application? Is it reliant or dependent upon this other device? And then, of course, sometimes more importantly, is there any impact between the two? Meaning, if this computer goes down, is there any other downstream impacts? Do we lose other devices? Do we lose communication in any way? So you can go in and again, build those things up manually right there from the CMDB view. Now, on this details page is where you have access to really the sum history of that device. So once it's created in the CMDB, whether you enter it in manually or whether you feed it in from SCCM or whether you use Dell Case or use the scanner out of RemedyForce, once that asset's created, then of course we can use that asset to tie it back to a specific account or a customer so that it's associated with their name when they call in and easily be called up, as well as all the support activity. How many incidents have been submitted on this device, how many times have we had to change or update this device, and really all the way to documentation, which could be things like administrator guides and user guides, and then your kind of full audit trail, which shows you everything from the time you receive the asset, and it's maybe put into stock, then it gets assigned to employee, a particular location. They use it for some period of time, maybe it breaks down, it comes back in, gets repaired, gets reassigned back out to somebody else. So this kind of gives you, that full life cycle audit trail to let you know not only what the device looks like today and where it is today, but where was it 6 months ago, and what did it look like 6 months ago, and what were all those, of course, changes and updates that were made in between. So you have a full accounting, of all of the updates to those assets. But in addition to that, you're not limited within the RemedyForce CMDB just to being able to track IT assets. You can go in and add additional asset classes to the CMDB. So it doesn't have to be a desktop, laptop, or server. It could be somebody's desk or credenza. It could be a fire extinguisher if you're tracking, safety equipment and things like that. In the medical world, you got a lot of biomed devices. You got, catheters. You've got, ventilators. You got everything you need to track. So you're not limited within RemedyForce to just being able to manage and track IT assets. That can extend out, beyond that into, maintenance equipment is another common example. You need to track HVAC equipment, or you've got groundskeeping equipment, whether those are lawnmowers or backhoes or whatever the case may be. So for those that weren't aware, you can expand the use of this. It doesn't just apply to IT. And you have the ability to expand this list out so that you can track literally any asset that you want to, so that you can set up things like warranty notifications and reminders and things like that, not just around IT, but every department that you may be using RemedyForce for. To that point, you see up here in the top right-hand corner, I can even set up, those automated notifications on those devices. So I don't have to come in here and dig through the data and look at things, as I need to. I may receive an alert or a notification that's going to pop up on my, I'll get a badge on my browser, or maybe if I'm using my phone or my tablet, I'll get the same kind of badge, it's going to, little numerical icon that's going to show me I've got 3 notifications or 4 notifications from RemedyForce. So I can open that up and see what notifications exist. And then of course I can click on that notification to drill me back into the details. So if I'm being notified about expiring warranties, I know exactly which devices are getting ready to expire, and I can start making decisions as to what to do about those. But I don't have to come in and manually run this report once a day to know that there's something here. If there's something here to look at, I'll get that notification. It's going to pop up. If I don't see the notification, then I know that I'm in the clear and no warranties to be dealt with, at least for this month or today at least. Any questions so far, Rich?
None, which is very surprising, Kyle. Audience, by all means, ask some questions. That you can ask anything. Kyle's here to answer them today. So by all means, type those questions in there.
Yeah, if you guys don't ask questions, I'll just keep talking. So another thing I want to mention, it's not directly a part of RemedyForce, but it's integral to RemedyForce, is the BMC Communities. So for those of you that are using RemedyForce today that aren't tied into BMC Communities, I highly, highly, highly recommend that go ahead and create a login account so that you can gain access to this. It just takes a minute to fill out. I mean, you're already, if you're using RemedyForce, you're a customer, you've got access to it. It's just a matter of setting up your ID and password. And this is a great way to do several things. Number one, if you've got questions about how-tos, you can see right here, we've got over close to 4,500 customers using RemedyForce across the world a day. Most of them, a lot of them are tied in here to BMC Communities, but I can see here, Nikhil is one of the product managers within BMC. So you're not talking to just the customers, you're talking to BMC developers, you're talking to BMC product management, you're talking to partners like engineer like myself that's out here. So as you have questions, this is a great source of information. A lot of times the question's already been asked and answered. All you got to do is search on it, you'll find it. If not, throw the question out in BMC Communities. Within an hour, you're typically flooded with tons of responses. One of those be coming from BMC or partners or other customers that have been there and done that in the past. It's also a great source of information about new features and functionality. So, just like we're kind of going through today and talking about some specific features that you may or not be employing that you could use. This is also a great place to find out about what is available, not just today, but also what's coming up, right? So this is also a source of information to let you know that there may be upcoming BMC webinars that are going to, go through that product roadmap that you can participate in. This is also a great place to be able to provide and submit ideas and suggestions. So if you're looking for a product enhancement, there's something that you wish operated a little differently, or you'd wish to see something added, this is also the method for you to be able to submit those ideas into BMC, because Nikhil and those product managers that are routinely on here are reviewing. They pull that list on a quarter by quarter basis of all those ideas submitted, and they go through and review and look at those. And then based on the priority, which is usually based on the votes, right? So you can even find somebody else's idea in the community. Somebody's already suggested something. All you need to come in and is vote it up, just give it a thumbs up. So it goes from 100 votes to 103, 104, 105. And those that have the highest totals at that quarter, product development goes through and typically grabs roughly about 80 to 100 of these customer suggestions every release and rolls those into the product. So this is a great way for you to get, to have a voice in terms of the future direction of the product, and have some direct interaction with product management and product development in terms of answers. Now, another good reason or another good resource that's available within the BMC communities is called RemedyForce Smart Practices. Now, this is something that you can access directly from RemedyForce. So from your administration homepage, under content management, you'll have an item here for Smart Practices content. You click on that, and it essentially links you back to the communities page where all that information is provided. And with the Smart Practices, what BMC is doing is they're going through and bundling up and creating some content that you can import into your RemedyForce instance to give you a jump start on other departments, other lines of business outside of IT. Things like HR, facilities, security. You know, they continue to expand that list. But this provides you a link so that you can come review that content, see if it makes sense for your environment, it's of value, and then you can simply download this content directly into your RemedyForce instance. And you'll notice here it creates everything from the request definitions themselves. It adds the categories to your category tree. It provides you with quick templates to use, the offerings, the SLAs. It's not just, you know, creating a form, you know, for an onboarding request that you can start building from. It provides you all of the content, you know, to be able to roll something out to support HR or to support a facilities team that wants to use RemedyForce, you know, without having to create all that content out of the box. Not that it's intended to be, you know, the end all be all or exactly what you're looking, you know, what every customer is looking for, but the intent is, of course, to give you that 80-20 rule. You're going to find a lot of stuff in there that will apply. You're going to find some things that don't. You want to get rid of them, delete them, maybe update or modify them. This is a great way to get a jump start on rolling RemedyForce out to a new line of business that you may be looking to roll into the service desk. Maybe get rid of, you know, another service desk app or some other tool that they're using, get off of, you know, SharePoint, things like that, and be able to roll them in. And that provides you, you know, with the ability to immediately have access to, if we go back here, my homepage, things like onboarding requests, offboard requests. You know, I've got things in here for facilities, you know, the bathroom's flooded, there's a faucet leak, it's hot in my office, it's cold in my office, things like that. Again, you may have different questions, you know, that you need within your onboard request, but this saves you from having to start from, you know, a blank piece of paper, you know, from ground zero. Much easier to find something that maybe 50-60% of what you want and just make some simple modifications and you're up and running. But all of that content can be downloaded directly from that Smart Practices site in the communities. So you can go through there and there's roughly, I think, 40 requests related to HR. There's the facilities content, you know, the bathrooms flooding and hot and cold and things. I need my office moved down to the corner office. All of those things are built out so that you can roll those out right out of the box, or you can use those just as a starting point, you know, if you're trying to start building that service catalog from the ground up. Now, while we're here, I also mention some of the additional functionality here for some of those that may not be using everything, maybe using self-service, but maybe don't know that there's additional capabilities available. A lot of users, you know, maybe using the knowledge base. Of course, they're going to have, you know, the ability for end users to submit tickets or incidents into the service desk, have a service catalog. Those are kind of, you know, the three, you know, core basics. But in addition to that, you can also display things like service health. Now, this ties back into, you know, using service levels and service level agreements. But you'll notice that this allows a user to come in, and you may be using the broadcast banner that you see scrolling across the top. This kind of corresponds to that. So you'll see I've got a message that's going across right there about the middle of the screen coming up. It says San Jose mail server is currently degraded. Right. So I can click down then into the services list right here off my page and say, look at the service health, and I can see that San Jose mail server's in the red. Or I've got all kinds of other services that I access. Everything's working, but I can see there's problems here. So that broadcast banner can be used as a way to give me kind of the high levels, but then can direct me to the service health, where when I dig in here, I can see those detailed notes and updates. So I know as IT's working on something, this is where I can come to get the information to find out, if they got it fixed yet, how much longer. Either reviewing it manually here, or I can even click the button to subscribe to updates, and I'll start receiving an email every time they add another note or some type of update to that service outage. So if you're looking to be able to provide some of that detail to your customer, to your end user, to avoid the flood of calls when you kind of have some kind of widespread outage, that's a good way to get some key information out in front of them that they can drill into and access for themselves, so that one event doesn't flood the service desk with 200 or 300 calls related to that one issue. Now, in addition, you also have the ability to expose the end user assets through the portal. And this makes it easy for end users, because a lot of times they're submitting, if they're having email problems or they can't get a certain application to open, and it's always related back to some device. It's on their desktop, or this is not working on my tablet, or this printer's not working. And a lot of times, you're forced and they're forced to have to identify it. You have to ask them for an asset tag, or what's the IP address or the serial number, look at the tag on the back and tell me what it says. Well, here I can simply just expose all the assets assigned to that user and say, here's everything you have. You've got a tablet, you've got a Dell laptop, you got an iPad. You may have applications and things like that. You may be tied into that San Jose mail server. All of these things can be shown, so that if I need to submit a ticket related to my Dell laptop, I can just click the button here to submit a ticket. Now all I have to do is go in and describe what's going on, not working in this case, and submit. It doesn't force me to have to identify the serial number and the asset tag. However, when it comes into the RemedyForce console and your service desk staff receive that incident, it's going to show that Dell M4400 asset is the asset that's linked to that ticket. So it gives the end user an easy way to be able to say, this is the device that I have a problem with, or this is the device I have a problem with, rather than saying, give me that serial number or give me that asset tag. And that way they can also use this to come back and look and see, status. So rather than going to that activity screen, which is common, where you see kind of all the activity, right? So I can see everything. That way it gives me the ability to filter things out by assets. So if I just want to see the tickets on my desktop or my laptop, all I have to do is click that related link, and I'll be able to see that information. In addition, over to the right over here, you'll see it also allows me to expand this out so that I can get to the serial number and the asset tag and other information that I want to make available to that user very easily. So they don't have to crawl around to the back of the device or dig around to find that data. If you're asking them for some information, you can make that available to them in kind of a business card fashion, so that when they contact the service desk, makes it easy for them, even if they're not using the submit a ticket link. As you're asking them questions, they can easily pull up that information without asking them to crawl underneath their desk on their hands and knees. We have any questions at all, Rich?
Surprisingly, no, not one. Audience, man, this is your time. This is your time to shine. He's here to answer any questions you have about this tool. I'm sure there should be plenty out there. Quite a few of you did put some challenges and questions when you submitted your registrations, but go ahead and ask.
Two final topics I wanted to cover. One, for those of you that use reports and dashboards in RemedyForce, hopefully you feel like I do. This is a very easy reporting and dashboard tool, very easy tool to be able to get metrics and key information out. But one thing a lot of customers are unfamiliar with is the concept of subscribing or subscription, so that whether I find a report that's already in the RemedyForce library, or whether I go in and build a report from scratch or make some changes and save a copy, rather than having to log back in, run this, update this as whenever I need it, I have the ability to create a subscription. So I can simply go in and say, yeah, I want this report every Monday morning at 8 a.m. or I want it every day at 8 a.m. Maybe not only I want it, but maybe I want others to have it. So I can even go in and call out a whole distribution group, send it to the executives, send it to the network engineering team, or send it to Dave or Susan, whatever the case may be. So I not only have the ability to subscribe myself, but I may choose, I want to send this to my director. I want to send this to my manager if those are metrics that I want to, pass up the chain. So that you can set up subscriptions, not just on your reports, but also on the dashboard views that you use. We talked about the warranty expirations earlier, the little notification or badge that pops up in the top right-hand corner of my screen. That happened in that case because I added a condition to that report. And this is your way of saying, like in my case, let's say you'd probably say greater than 0, right? Now, what that means is don't send me the report if there's nothing in it. Even though I've subscribed to it and I said I want it weekly on Thursday at 1 p.m., don't send it to me completely blank. Only send it to me if there's one record, or if there's more than 0 records in that report. That way, it's not just blindly just throwing things out that are garbage. You may even not care about it if there's 1 or 2 or 3. Maybe I only want it if there's 10 or more assets that I have to deal with. Otherwise, it's not worth it. So you can set conditions on that subscription. So that way, and that can, become very complex very quickly. So that I don't get that badge and I don't get notified and I don't get that report unless there's really something in there that I need to look at. You could do the same thing with your dashboards. So the dashboards in RemedyForce, of course, are kind of mashup views. Whether you do it on process by process, or you may create, kind of a view that's a conglomerate of incidents and problems and changes and things like that you want to maybe present to a manager. If you got your daily analysts, right, they're only concerned with, right, the stuff that is assigned to them. So they need to know, how many requests do I have? How many VIP issues? How many tickets that are coming up for SLA quickly? Things like that. So you can even create kind of an individual contributor dashboard. This may be something you assign back to that homepage, right? So this would be the first thing they see when they log into RemedyForce is, what's my ticket count and how many of my tickets are getting ready to breach the SLAs and things like that. And the same thing exists here, where you can subscribe to these dashboards so that everything that you've created those subscriptions for, I have those in my mailbox each day. I can see every morning I get my SLA results. I have the ability to look at the customer satisfaction scores from the previous day's incidents and requests. I can drill into my assets and see what's available, where is it located, is it in for repair, is it deployed, things like that. Or if it's a report, right, I have that report scheduled where I receive that report content every day. So it makes it very easy, to get these things in the hands, automate the reports, the dashboards, and all the key metrics out to your managers and executives so they have easy access to those things without having to go look for them all the time. So I know we're right at the 145 mark. The last thing I wanted to mention real quickly is a recent update to the console. So for those that have not seen this before or haven't used it, they've created a view called My Workday. You see, it's something that has to be enabled. So if you haven't, every RemedyForce customer has it. It's already in your environment, but there is a checkbox to be able to turn it on. And then you have to go in and start actually creating the little queries to create these business cards you see. That way I can open this up or, close this as needed. And this is just a great way to take all of this content right down here, whether it's change requests or incidents or problems, and be able to bubble that up into kind of a scorecard view so that I can quickly see, notice I can even color code it, so if it's 1 to 3, it's in the green. If it's 4 to 6, it's in the yellow, and 7 to 10, it turns red, so that you have some indication as the severity. But that way, if I have 10 emergency changes that pop up, all I do is click on that, and you'll notice down below, there's my 10 emergency changes. Or I want to see the priority 1 incidents. There they are. So this is a great new tool, and these are configurable. You can throw these out anywhere you want. You can create as many as you want. And then again, users can collapse and open that as they needed. But that's a great new tool that you can use and highlight some key information for your users so that they pay attention to those things that are of critical importance. And with that, Rich, unless we have questions.
Not one. Not surprisingly enough, we do not have any questions. Audience, this is your last chance. By all means, go ahead and take your questions, and Kyle's here to answer them for you. Should you not feel comfortable doing that today, we encourage you to give us a call at 844-FLYCAST. That's 844-359-2278. Give us a call at any time. We'll be happy to answer any questions you have. Or you can chat with us live on our chat box on our website. We have folks standing by Monday through Friday. That's what they're there for. Utilize them. Ask them for data sheets, white papers, a demo. If you need training, looking to go to an event, they'll help you out. Or email us at info@flycastpartners.com. That being said, it looks like there's no questions. Oh, wait a minute. Something might be popping up here. Let's look at what we have here. Hang on one second. It says, here we go. Here's a question. Did you say you can export asset data from client management and import it into RemedyForce?
You absolutely can import it. However, if you're using client management, there's a direct connection between there's a direct interface that BMC provides to client management. So you certainly can export and import data into the CMDB, but in about 15 minutes, we can just have the two directly connected to where as records get added to client management, they're synchronized almost immediately in real time to the CMDB. So there's no scheduled import export process. It's just feeding them in as it finds them. And that's, again, something doesn't have to be built. There's no development, not a lot. There's a simple one-page configuration in RemedyForce where you provide the client management server name and an ID and a password to log into it. And then vice versa in client management, you provide a RemedyForce ID and password so it can log into RemedyForce. And within 10 minutes of filling out those configuration pages, you can have the data moving back and forth between the CMDB and BCM seamlessly.
Thank you, Kyle. That was the last question. Folks, any other questions you have, go ahead and send them to us. We're more than happy to get the answers for you as soon as possible. And Kyle, thank you for your presentation today. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule for us.
Happy to do it. Wish everybody a safe and happy holiday.
Folks, I want to wish you all a Merry Christmas to you and your families and a Happy New Year. This is our last webinar for the rest of the year. So we'll see you in the new year, in the second week of January. Check our webinar schedule. We have 68 presentations coming up for you next year, folks. I encourage you to check out something that may interest you. With that being said, we're going to go ahead and let you get back to your day. And thank you once again for joining us.
Thanks, everybody.